Do 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 do. I need to drink some more of that potent coffee. Need to kickstart me. Been doing a bunch of reading and studying. Also do some product photography today. Wanted to talk about some absolutes. It's good to boil stuff down. You know, I write books. I translate ancient Greek and Pali. And here in the next week or so, I'll be working on a book on retroduction. Maybe it'll be a booklet. If I can't stick it in like a 90 pages or less, then I don't really understand it. And I do understand it. So I like to be pithy on that front. But I'd first like to make a couple absolutist statements that are completely undeniable by anybody on this earth. And I've talked about this on this first aspect before, that there's only ever been two postulates for the absolute foundation, kind of like the concrete foundation that makes up a house, the foundation for cosmic mechanics and the actual picture for the nature of natura naturans, or Mother Nature, one of which, of course, is based in the ether. And there have been many different takes on the ether model of the universe. There's also been many different takes on the atomistic. And this is, even though I am against atomism, that is in no way a denial of atoms and fundamental nuclear particles, such as the proton and the neutron. However, all free neutrons turn into protons, so really there's only one fundamental particle. It's the actual false philosophy itself of atomism. So the rejection of atomism, and a lot of people are confused on this, is not a rejection of nuclear particles or atoms. I have no point in time in any video made a declaration denying atoms. And there are, of course, many different models of atomism. But I mean, we've only ever had, throughout the totality of human history, two different foundations postulated for the foundation of Mother Nature, if you will. Atomism and the ether. And it's absolutely impossible to explain fields, and it's impossible to explain wireless power induction. It's impossible to explain light slowing down and speeding back up after it passes through a medium without breaking the law of conservation of energy with an atomistic model. It's just completely impossible. That's postulate number one. Postulate number two is only one thing only. Okay, we're not talking about atomism versus the ether here. Is that anybody with a half a brain, or just a few brain cells to rub together, knows fundamentally, even if they can't express it, that there cannot be in nature, the one thing over here and the other thing over here, and then we have this over here, and this is a different branch of science over here. That is absolutely impossible. Even if you're not, an adherent believer, and by the way, no branch of science has not only never defined the term field, they've never defined fundamentally the term energy. They can't tell you where energy comes from, they can't tell you where it goes to, they can actually do countless calculations, and of course modern scientists are not scientists at all. They're mathematicians, and this is why they're atomists, because if you can't quantify, the basis of quantify is the word count. If you can't quantify something, then you can't count it. And if you can't count it, then it's of no use to a mathematician. That's why modern scientists are not true Aristotelian, Platonic, or Pythagorean scientists at all. They're mathematicians, and that's very unfortunate. That's why, of course, they get so confused. But there can't be these several different things in nature. There can't be fields over here, light over here, matter over here, all these unconnected threads. Well, all these threads make up the tapestry of the cosmos, they'll tell you. Well, we could say that superficially and, of course, be accurate. It's absolutely impossible for natura naturans to be bifurcated, much less even more so. Duplicitous beyond duplicity, talking about, matter and light, the this of this and the that of that. It's, and of course, fundamentally, even I have to agree with halfway rational scientists, who are not scientists, mathematicians. They know that fundamentally all the fields. They've been looking for a grand unified theory, or GUT, G-U-T. They've been talking about it now for decades, grand unified theory. But it's right before them. Well, one thing I actually tried to reconcile was a few things, like black holes. I completely reconciled that. The one thing I've been working on for a long time, but I had not really truly focused in on it, was the reconciliation of light and matter. You know, there cannot be both light over here in nature and then matter over here. It's absolutely impossible. There can't be these different field modalities. Electricity is here, magnetism's there, electrostatics is over here, and gravity is down here. We don't know what gravity is. There can't be that. There can't be these different fields, and there can't be light and matter. It's absolutely impossible. Nature cannot, you know, exist over here and yet over here in a different... I think I made myself abundantly clear on that. No branch of science has ever defined accurately energy or a field. The ancient Greek word kora, a field. What is a field? If you really want to confuse a scientist, by the way, ask them to define energy. But if you don't want to ask that, just ask them to define what a field is. And a field, of course, is just an ether perturbation modality. Just like ice, water, and steam are just different temperature and pressure modalities of one thing, water. Fields are of different types, whether they be circular or longitudinal or transverse or a hybrid thereof. Electricity, let's actually combine all the fields, and let's combine light and matter, and then let's combine both. And this is something no one's ever done in any article before, nor in any video. Electricity is a hybrid. It's not my opinion. This is the statement, page 14, electrical discharges, waves, and impulses. Charles Proteus Steinmetz. Phi times psi equals Q in Planck of electrification, i.e. magnetism times dielectricity equals electrification. Electricity is a hybrid. Electricity is the dielectric field. That would be like saying ice is the water field when it's cold, right? You say, what does that mean? Say magnetism is the dielectric field. It would be akin to saying ice is the water field in cold temperatures. You know, we got hard water when it's cold outside. Magnetism, of course, is centrifugal divergence. It is literally the force vector, the fundamental force vector of the entire universe, the one thing that gives mass and magnitude to absolutely everything in the universe. Everything is magnetoreactive. Some people say, well, this is ferromagnetic and this is not ferromagnetic, like a stone. This is not. Everything is magnetoreactive. That's been proven with like 14, 20 Tesla magnetic fields where you're levitating strawberries and frogs. Gravity, the phenomena of gravity, of course, is undeniable. I always laugh my tushy off when people say, gravity doesn't exist. It's like, okay, well, what's this phenomena? Okay, let's just forget about the word. You know, what is this phenomena right here? Gravity doesn't... I really laugh pretty hard when people tell me there's no such thing as gravity. Gravity, of course, is not a force, it's an acceleration. The same thing we call magnetic attraction is the exact same thing we call gravity. The only distinction is an attribution. One is point source, and the other one is non-point source. There's only one conjugate geometry that makes up all field theory, and they're both one. Magnetism is, of course, the dielectric field. Respectively, we actually have the geometry of the torus and the hyperboloid. The hyperboloid, the hourglass shape, the torus, of course, the donut shape. One is a negative image of the other. The negative image of a hyperboloid is a torus. The negative image of a torus is a hyperboloid. So we've actually combined all the fields into one thing. The dielectric and the magnetic. Electricity is a hybrid, and so-called gravity is a misunderstanding, a misappropriation due to an attributional difference. One is point source and the other one is non-point source. Mutual mass acceleration vector of two masses, not towards each other, but towards a null point in counter space. So now we've combined all the fields. There we have the grand unified principle of all fields. So now we actually have to reconcile something else, and I've done that before in other videos. It's the reconciliation of light and matter. It was right before me the whole time. There's no such thing as radiation. I mean, beta radiation is scalar wave emissions, and gamma radiation is nothing other than super high energy light. It's electromagnetic spectrum. There's no difference between radio or visible light or gamma. We call it gamma radiation, but it's just super high energy light. And the higher the capacitance, the smaller the space. When I say the smaller the space, the higher the capacitance. So what is matter fundamentally? We know that, and by the way, I don't know if you know this or not, the wisest minds of electrical field theory, both Tesla, Charles Proteus Steinmetz, Oliver Heaviside, Eric Dollard, and other geniuses of electrical physics. So there's no such thing as a charge-carrying particle. It's an abstraction. There's no such thing as a photon. There's no such thing as an electron. These are conceptual abstraction. That would be like slapping someone in the face and saying, well, that's a slap particle. It's like, well, that's completely nonsensical. Well, there was an impulse there, and something landed on your face. As a slap particle. completely nonsensical conceptual abstraction. It's actually a concept reification. It's an ancient fallacy, so nobody knows fallacies anymore, but let's not digress onto that. Anyway, these people's all the genius of electrical theory. So there's no such thing as a charge-carrying particle. Of course, the phenomena, of course, is undeniable. We know for a fact, and I'm in complete agreement with every scientist out there, that all free neutrons turn into protons. Well, if all free neutrons turn into a proton, that means that a neutron is only a nuclear abstraction, a nuclear charge abstraction, and there's only one fundamental particle. That would be correct. And that fundamental particle, of course, would be the hydrogen atom, wouldn't it? We've seen this from countless telescopes all over the world. They call them several different names. They call them galactic jets. They call them astrophysical jets. I don't really care what you call them. We actually see at the centers of these galaxies, and they're occurring at the geomagnetic precessional axis of the black hole at the center of the galaxy. And now we know that they actually exist at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, since we're able to see them in broad spectrum analysis of the Milky Way galaxy. The ejection of trillions and trillions of tons, literally, I don't know if it's every second, trillions and trillions of tons of hydrogen, literally being shot out like water out of a nozzle, except it's just unfathomable amounts at unfathomable speeds. We actually see that black holes, and of course black holes are, if we can agree on nothing what a black hole is a super, and of course the one thing that actually defines a black hole is a supermass with no magnitude. It's where dielectricity has overthrown magnetism's ability to keep that supermass in the visible universe, since there are only two field pressure modalities, both the dielectric and magnetic. Understanding of what a black hole is extremely simple. It's undeniable that its gravitational attraction or acceleration is present, whether it be visible or present in the visible universe or not. Well, how does it work? It's totally vanished from the Cartesian universe, because the only thing that keeps anything in the visible universe with mass and magnitude is magnetism. So a black hole is something that is super, super massive and has attained to point source singularity. In other words, if you're able to create, and a magnet, of course, is a point source field object. If humanity were able to create a supermagnet, countless times the size of the sun, the fact that its dielectric acceleration is which is impossible to do, but let's say we could theoretically do it, it would vanish from the universe, but its presence would, of course, still be present. That's where dielectricity has overthrown magnetism's ability to keep that object within the visible universe. But at the geomagnetic precessional axis, or called the Lamore frequency, we see trillions and trillions and trillions of tons of fundamental matter, which is hydrogen, being emitted from these black holes. They call them astrophysical jets. They call them galactic jets. So, getting to the nitty-gritty of it, and of course all matter, all atoms are just compound, and I'm in full agreement with every scientist out there, all matter is a compound harmonic, and so would Walter Russell agree with me. All matter is a compounded harmonic of hydrogen. Yeah, that's simple. But at, I don't know if it's 20 powers or 50 powers above that of gamma, we actually have what do they call it? And I'm actually in agreement with science. They call it ZTP, zero time particle. We actually have the fundamental particle of the universe, i.e. the hydrogen nucleus. In other words, the fundamental building block of the entire universe, the basis of all matter, is nothing other than countless magnitudes. I mean, 20 or it could be 20 to 60 times greater than that of gamma radiation. 20 to 60 times greater than that of gamma radiation, and I call it humorously hard light because it's both funny and helps you understand what it is that above gamma radiation at that extremely high scale we have the fundamental particle of the entire universe. So matter itself, the building block of matter, is nothing other than super, super high energy EMR, electromagnetic radiation, or light. So the reconciliation of light and matter has been reconciled. Quantum, unfortunately, by their own admission, they say that everything they understand about the universe is based upon their understanding of light. Well, light's not an emission. Light doesn't have a speed. Light doesn't travel from point A to point B. Sound doesn't travel. Well, we have a speed of sound. Sure, sound travels. We call it the speed of sound. Well, that's the rate of induction of the propagation of the disturbance of the nitrogen and oxygen, because I'm not emitting anything. I'm not emitting sound. Conventionally, I am. I'm actually causing a disturbance that vibrates the microphone, a disturbance in the nitrogen and oxygen. Yeah? through the expenditure of energy, where I'm actually causing a vibration in the air. Light is a vibration in the ether, which is, by the way, exactly what Nikola Tesla and Charles Proteus Steinmetz and Oliver Heaviside called it. It's exactly what they called it, and that's exactly what it is. It has no speed, that's a rate of induction. The so-called speed of sound is not a speed because nothing emits sound, it sets up a disturbance. Explaining red shift and blue shift is as easy as explaining Doppler shift in sound. So the reconciliation of light and matter has been had. And light is just nothing other than a coaxial circuit, transverse electromagnetic, longitudinal rarefactions and compressions of the dielectric. It is specifically a complex ether perturbation modality encompassing longitudinal and transverse. Okay? So we've reconciled light and matter, and of course light is just nothing other than a coaxial energy circuit. And since we've reconciled all the fields, we've reconciled both light and matter as one thing, and we've reconciled fields. But they're not two different things, light and matter and fields. Now we're reconciled into one thing. Understanding the nature of the universe and the simplicity of Natura Naturans, or Mother Nature, is blatantly obvious. It can't be more complex than that. This is the platinum summum bonum of Occam's razor. Mother Nature cannot be, by definition, more complex than that, and that's not complex at all. It's extremely simple. It's not simplex to explain, and it's not simplex to understand, but it is fundamentally simple. It's just that human beings are not that intellectually evolved yet. Undeniably so. So there we have it. We've reconciled all fields, and we've reconciled light and matter, and now we've reconciled light and matter and fields as one thing in simplicity. Ether perturbation modalities, the variations and compounds thereof, of which we actually have light and radio and gamma, and we actually have the fundamental particle, which is countless powers greater than that of gamma. And we've reconciled light and matter and all fields. We've reconciled all fields together, and we've reconciled light and matter, and we've reconciled light and matter and all fields together as one thing. And that is both beautiful and divine, but more importantly so, irrefutable and undeniable. As I say that with emphasis. Anyway, I hope I kept that simple. People say, why do I have this selenium tower on this thing? Because I actually, you turn on a little power source down here and little LEDs down here flicker light through the selenium, and you turn off all the lights, and then you think and contemplate the nature of light. It was like a little $6 toy. Up in Cave City. Yeah, not too far from where my farm's at. Anyway, I hope you like this video. If you do, anything is always appreciated. Welcome in the description below. Let me know if you got any questions, and I love reading your comments in the descriptions below. In the comments below, excuse me. There we go. Peace out, Girl Scout. Lux Veritas.